Hey there, I'm Amy from thecrazycraftlady.com. If you shop at Dollar Tree, you may have seen these peel and stick wallpaper sheets. A couple of years ago, I made a video sharing 8 wallpaper crafts. Well, since then, Dollar Tree has released new patterns. So today I'm back sharing 10 new craft ideas, all using peel and stick wallpaper sheets. So let's get making. For this craft, I started with a plain, blank, unlined notebook from Dollar Tree and a piece of this super viral botanical peel and stick wallpaper. And I just trimmed it down to size and peeled off the backing and then smoothed the wallpaper over the notebook. So we're going to make a little notebook cover, but we're going to embellish it just a bit. So just center the spine of the book onto the piece of wallpaper there, and then smooth down both sides. Make sure there's no air bubbles. Oh, I forgot to remove the label. Sorry. Remove the label and then smooth down the peel and stick wallpaper. And then from there, you're going to use your cutting mat and your craft knife and very carefully trim all the way around the edge of the notebook. Just be a little bit careful because you don't want to cut the actual notebook. You don't want to trim off a piece of the notebook. Other times when I'm cutting like wood signs or something, it's a little bit easier to hug the edge of the wood because you're not as likely to cut through that with your craft knife. But with this journal cover, it's thinner, obviously. So just take your time, be careful. And then you could leave this as is, but I want it to be a little bit extra. So I have this dark green burlap type ribbon. I frayed the edge of it by about half an inch and hot glued it in place. So use a silicone fingertip protector because this ribbon is super meshy, right? So you don't want to burn yourself. But you're just gonna hot glue a piece of ribbon about 2/3 of the way down the notebook across the front and the back. And I just frayed the ends, that way the ribbon would poke out over the edge of the notebook a little bit. I just thought it gave it a little bit more visual interest and was a little bit more fun. And then I wanted to label my notebook. And so you could just use plain, any type of cream, solid color ribbon. I had this piece of stretched canvas from a project left over. So I just used my rotary cutter and I cut a slice of this stretched canvas material, waste not, want not, right? You could use a strip of cut drop cloth fabric, whatever you have. And then I just went into Cricut Design Space and I cut out some letters on heat transfer vinyl. So I just wanted to label this sketchbook. So I weeded my letters and then I just used my mini heat press. If you don't have a heat press, you can use an iron. If you don't have a Cricut, you could write with a Sharpie or with a pen marker, or just skip this step altogether. You don't have to label it. But I just added my letters there simply, and then hot glued that piece of ribbon, I guess stretched canvas strip that I cut there that looks like ribbon, and hot glue that right over your first piece of ribbon so that they're layered. The key here is just use a thicker ribbon on the bottom and a thinner ribbon on the top, and you should be good to go. But then here's my finished little sketchbook for when I'm out and about and I want to do sketching or drawing when I'm on the go. For this project, I really wanted to do gold frames, but I didn't find any at my Dollar Tree, so I just grabbed some plain black frames, and these are like diploma certificate frames. Really great because it will fit perfectly a sheet of printer paper in it. These frames are great for printables as well, just a side note. But I wanted gold, so I decided to spray paint them. I gave them a base coat of like this cream colored chalk paint, and then I went gold on top of that. I just didn't have white spray primer at the time, so that's why I went cream. And I actually think maybe the gold covered the cream better than it would have white. Then you want to pop the center stuff out of the frame. Careful, those little tabs on the back of these Dollar Tree frames are kind of cheapy. But then spray paint everything gold, let that dry, and then I grabbed a sheet of cardstock, and you want to trim off 2 of the ends like a scant 1/4 inch, just so that the paper will fit in the frame once it's covered and wrapped with wallpaper. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will be too big to fit in the frame. And so from there, I grabbed a ruler and a pen, and I measured the midpoint on both sides of my paper. And then from there, I measured the size of where my photo is going to be. So I measured the midpoint, and then I was able to measure, 2 inches to the left and 2 inches to the right. So 4 inches, and then 5 inches in height. So 2 3/4 and 2 3/4 from each midpoint on the other side. So a little bit of math going on here, sorry. But obviously this is going to depend on what size picture you want to put in your photo mat. So do whatever photo dimensions work for you. Make sure it's centered on your paper or on your cardstock there. And then use your ruler and your craft knife on your cutting mat to very carefully cut only the lines where the opening for the picture is going to be. So you'll see I cut at one angle, and I don't go all the way to the end. I turn my blade around and I cut from the other side so that I have a perfect corner, like a perfect 90-degree corner on each corner. And I don't go over, I don't overshoot the target when I'm cutting. And then from there, I grabbed my peel and stick wallpaper. I trimmed it down to size just a little bit so I could save the scraps for something else. And then I smoothed that wallpaper. I just laid it down sticky side up, and I smoothed my cardstock photo mat right in the center of there. Then once again, I grabbed my craft knife and my cutting mat, and I cut a little X in the center of my picture mat. And just to prevent any overhang, I trimmed off the tip of the triangle there, and I folded all 4 edges over onto the back of the cutting mat. So I did top, bottom, and then left, right. And then from there, it's time to do the edges. So just like when you're sewing, you want to cut the corners off, like the triangles off each of the 4 corners. And then just fold the peel and stick wallpaper right over onto the back of the photo mat. Super simple. Just make sure you have nice clean folds and nice clean corners on the 4 corners, and that's it. You can pop your picture mat right into your frame and then pop your photo in behind it. Okay, grab 4 sheets of this leafy pattern peel and stick wallpaper, which I think is new at Dollar Tree. This is the first time I'd seen it before. And a jumbo piece of cardboard. We're going to try to make a jumbo picture frame out of cardboard. So I just started with my cutting mat and my craft knife and a metal ruler. And I measured a piece of cardboard that was 17 inches by 20 inches. The reason being is I was going to print a poster that was 11 inches by 14 inches. So I wanted my frame to be 3 inches wide all the way around. So 11 plus 6 is 17, and 14 plus 6 is 20, if my math is correct. I think I can handle at least basic addition. So I just measured and then drew lines with a fine point Sharpie, and then I went back with my craft knife and I cut everything out until I had my base of my frame there. And then this was very similar to when I did my photo mats. I measured the center of each side of cardboard, and then I measured out from the center equal distances until I had, the center of my frame marked out with marker. And then I just cut those as well. It took quite a few times with my craft knife to score and get a clean cut straight through. You also want to be really careful not to dent or bend the cardboard, because then your frame is going to look wonky. So be more gentle, and if you have to do 8 scores with the craft knife, that's preferable to denting or creasing anything. And then you're going to grab 4 sheets of peel and stick wallpaper. So I cut the first sheet, in an L shape, and then I cut the second shape in an L shape, and I set them in place. So you want to marry up the seams, and then just like you did with the cutting mat or with the picture mat, fold the edges in on the inside and on the outside and trim as you go. And then you're going to cut 2 more pieces at the bottom, marry up the seams both on the side of the frame and at the bottom of the frame, and then trim it again, cut triangles from the outside corners and cut slits on the inside corners, fold everything in. And then I just printed my 11 by 14. I will say I cut the inside rectangle a little bit smaller than 11 by 14 so that I could tape my poster inside the frame. Otherwise, it'll be too small. The print will be too small. So I just initially added some tape on all 4 corners. I just used white duct tape, lined up my picture exactly how I wanted it first, just by like doing a tentative hold with each of the 4 corners. And then once I had my image lined up exactly how I wanted it, I went back and I taped along all 4 edges all the way around. And that secured my image in place more permanently. But here's my giant little picture frame. If you want to hang it on the wall, I would use like Velcro command strips or poster hanging strips. But I just kind of set this on a shelf. I think it'd be super fun to make this even in a jumbo size and use, 8 sheets of peel and stick wallpaper to make oversized dramatic wall art. Just a thought. Okay, when I saw this porch leaner at Dollar Tree, I knew I wanted to give it a different look. So I think it's cute as is, but I just wanted to challenge myself to try something new. And the wheels maybe came off the wagon a little bit. I was not anticipating it would be this difficult to remove these letters. Those things are glued on there hardcore. If I had to do this all over again, I'd buy a plain porch leaner from Michael's or use the back of this. But once I started, I was committed to the project. So here we go. I used my heat gun to try to loosen up the glue and my craft knife to kind of pry off the letters. I was able to salvage them. If you just want to like buy wooden letters, that works too. But like I said, I'd started the project, so I saw it through. And then it left quite a bit of cardboard on the porch leaner, so I just added some water, covered it with a washcloth, let it sit for like 5 minutes, and that softened up the remaining cardboard. So I was able to then use like a scraper tool and just scrape everything off. So I had a nice flat surface that I was then going to come back and cover with peel and stick wallpaper. So then grab the wallpaper of your choice, and I cut it down to size. I didn't cut it perfectly to size, but I wanted to save that little scrap on the end there. So I just trimmed that off to save for later. Start at the top, left-hand corner, square up your wallpaper piece. Sorry, you have to see the top of my head for a while on this project. It was just unavoidable. And then I used my smoothing tool to smooth that paper all the way down into place and into that far corner. And then there will be a little bit of excess on that right-hand side. So use that scraper tool to scrape all the way into the corner, and then grab a craft knife and trim away any excess peel and stick wallpaper. And then you can line up the pattern and continue this all the way down the porch leaner sign. I used 3 sheets of wallpaper for this, so I'll speed this up and show you how it came together. And then at the end here, sorry, you're going to have to see the top of my head. There was no avoiding it. So I put this final piece into place. I smoothed it to the right and to the bottom, and then I just trimmed all the way around the edges there. I was very careful in the corner to get as close to that corner as possible. And then it was time to re-add my letters. So I grabbed Waverly chalk paint in the color Night Sky and a Pouncer paintbrush, and I just painted right over the letters. So if you just want to buy letters or cut out letters on your Cricut or whatever, you can do that as well, but I just repurposed these and painted them. And because these were glitter texture, it took a fair amount of paint, but it came together pretty quickly. And then I just used Eileen's tacky glue to secure all the letters back down into place and keep the letters flat while the glue dried. I just grabbed some of my daughter's old graphic novel books to just weight the letters down so that they would be nice and smooth once the glue had dried. But here we go. Here's my finished little porch leaner craft. I think the possibilities for wallpaper patterns and color combinations on this are pretty endless. For this craft, we're going to make a door hanger. So I started with just an unfinished wood circle from Dollar Tree. You can also get these at the craft store. And I used Folk Art matte paint in the color Linen. You can see me adding a little bit of water, spraying it just to get a more smooth, even finish there. You don't need to paint the whole wood round because we're going to cover part with peel and stick wallpaper. So just about the top third or so, let that dry. And then we're going to paint some embellishments. So 4 Dollar Tree tumbling tower pieces or Jenga pieces. This is Waverly chalk paint in the color Night Sky. And then we're also going to paint one of these little mini palettes. So this takes a minute because call me too perfectionist. I don't know. I really wanted to get all the nooks and crannies so that no matter what angle you looked at the project from, it would all be painted and you wouldn't see unfinished wood. So I got in all the nooks and crannies and then let that dry. And then I came back and I added my peel and stick wallpaper to my wood round cutout here. So I just cut off that end piece, and I'll save that for a different project, and then smooth that right onto the front of the wood round. And then I'm going to flip it over and you're going to see my first attempt. So I wanted to paint welcome on this, and the ratio of welcome to wallpaper just didn't work. So I tried again on the other side. So that's why you see wallpaper on both sides. But I just used my craft knife and my cutting mat and I trimmed away the excess wallpaper there. I probably could have saved that bottom piece, that scrap there, but oh well. And then it's time to assemble. So we're going to make a little crate thing to put faux florals in. So you're going to add your 4 tumbling tower pieces to the back of the little mini wood palette there. I like to use a little bit of wood glue as well as a little bit of hot glue. The hot glue gives instant hold. The wood glue gives the more long-term permanent hold. So just 2 little tumbling tower pieces on each side of the back of that little mini wood crate. And then hot glue that whole thing right to the door hanger there, right in the center at the bottom. And then we're going to add our words. So I just printed the word welcome off my printer, and then I put a piece of carbon transfer paper behind it. You could also just scribble across the back of the paper with a pencil, and then tape it in place centered where you want it to be, and then grab a pen and trace over your letters. So this is going to transfer that carbon from that carbon transfer paper onto your craft surface so that you can then paint over it. If you have a Cricut and just want to cut vinyl letters, feel free to do that as well. But then I just grabbed that same Waverly chalk paint in the color Night Sky and a fine tip paintbrush, and I painted right over where the carbon transfer had transferred my letters onto my craft. So this takes a minute, so bring your patience for this one and just paint over the letters. Or if you have a rub-on transfer, or like I said, a Cricut, to speed up the process, feel free. And then I just filled my little mini wood crate here with some faux florals from Dollar Tree, just some green and blue to kind of play off the paint color and the color in my wallpaper. And they just stick right in. You could hot glue them in place, but mine just stuck in nicely and they don't fall out. So there you have it. And then I just grabbed a piece of twine and I strung up my door hanger with a simple knot on each end of the twine. And then I thought I was done, but I realized my little wood crate looked a little sad. So I just grabbed some natural fiber ribbon. It's like a 1-inch jute fiber ribbon. And I did my figure-8 bow and I made a tiny little bow, trim the tail ends at a 45-degree angle. And then I just hot glued that right onto the front of that little painted crate as a final embellishment. And here's my little door hanger. All right, let's make some Christmas ornaments. So I just started with these plain wood rounds. I ordered a bunch of them off Amazon. They're just unfinished wood and they have a hole drilled at the top, so perfect for hanging little Christmas ornaments. I just grabbed my plain white Rust-Oleum chalk paint and I painted one side of each of the ornaments. You just need to paint one side. This is actually going to be the back. And then once that paint had dried, you're going to grab your peel and stick wallpaper. So I used a wood pattern on this. I thought it was just a nice, pretty neutral blank canvas. So just smooth down a square of peel and stick wallpaper, flip your ornament over, grab your little craft knife and trim away all of the excess all the way around the circle there. So repeat this on however many ornaments that you want to make. You can make 1, you can make 20, the sky's the limit. And then I just went into Cricut Design Space. So I'm going to show you here if you want to take a screenshot of like the font and stuff that I used. I just played around and I wanted to do the names of Jesus. My sister inspired me. She had seen these Christmas ornaments like on Etsy and she's working on a quilt with the names of Jesus. I just thought it was a really fun idea. And so I cut these out on Cricut Design Space, just on plain black adhesive vinyl. And then you just grab your transfer tape and your smoothing tool and transfer all of your little decals onto your wood rounds. If you don't have a Cricut, you could use a black paint marker, paint pen, or rub-on decals like image transfers. I think would be really fun on this wood grain peel and stick wallpaper. And if you don't want to do names of Jesus, you could do names of family members or any fun like cheery Christmas words or anything else that you like. But then I decided my ornaments looked a little unfinished, so I grabbed some twine, just plain jute twine, and my hot glue gun, and I hot glued twine all the way around the edge of each ornament. I just thought it gave it a little bit more of a finished look and a little bit more texture and dimension. And then finish everything off by stringing up each ornament with twine. Now, the twine can get a little bit frayed, so I like to wrap one end in painter's tape, use my craft knife to poke a hole in that peel and stick wallpaper. Then you can string the twine through, cut the painter's tape off, and then secure everything in the top with a simple knot. Just a little quick tip to keep your twine from fraying. But there you have it. Here are my finished Christmas ornaments. All right, this I'm gonna call a blink craft, as in a blink town. If you blink, you'll miss it. So all you're gonna do is grab a little wood cutout. So really any shape will do. I did an oval. This just came from Dollar Tree. I'm really liking this marble pattern peel and stick wallpaper, so I went with that. I'm sure you could use contact paper too, because they make marble texture contact paper. But just smooth that right over your wood cutout, flip it over, grab your craft knife, cut all the excess wallpaper off around the edges there, and then peel that away, and then you have this cute little oval surface that looks kind of like marble. So I went into my Cricut design space on my Cricut, and I found this image for this decal. It's clean on one side and dirty on the other. If you just wanted to write with a paint marker or a stencil or even a printable, like design something in Canva or PicMonkey and just do a Mod Podge, a printable on, this would work too. But I wanted to make a cute little dishwasher sign. So I used my black adhesive vinyl, added my little words, and then I flipped the whole thing over and I E6000 as in like that's a verb. I secured a magnet to the back using E6000, and now there will never be a question on whether the dishes in the dishwasher are clean or dirty. And there you go, my cute little blink dollar store craft. All right, for this craft, you want to start with two canvases, a stretched canvas and a flat artist canvas panel in the same size. So in this case, they were both 8 by 10. And if you can't find this flat canvas panel, you can just use a piece of cardboard. That's fine too. So the first thing you're going to want to do is paint the inside of the stretched canvas. I used my Waverly chalk paint in the color Moss. And this is really old paint, so it was really thick. So I had to really water it down with my little spray bottle there. So that's why you'll see me spraying it pretty frequently. But just paint all inside the inside of the stretched canvas. And then you're also going to paint the canvas front of the flat panel. So the back of the stretched canvas and the front of the flat canvas, both in Waverly chalk paint in the color Moss. Also, you'll want to paint around the edges of that flat panel just so that when you combine the two canvases together, it has a more finished look and you don't see unfinished, unpainted canvas. That's all. Okay, then I grabbed this famous botanical Dollar Tree peel and stick wallpaper and I just cut it down to size so it would cover the front and the edges of my stretched canvas. So I didn't trust the peel and stick wallpaper to stick to the canvas, so I just added a coat of Mod Podge first. So this is just regular, I think matte Mod Podge. Any type of Mod Podge will work, or even like tacky glue, whatever. But just to the front panel, and then center the panel onto the peel and stick wallpaper there, and then smooth it down. So the Mod Podge will dry and it'll stick better than if you had just done the peel and stick wallpaper on its own. And then come in with hot glue and hot glue around the edge of the canvas and fold over the edges of the peel and stick wallpaper. So you're going to want to trim a little square or rectangle out of each corner with your craft scissors, and then continue to glue the remaining edges as you go. Then I also grabbed a sheet of this wood grain peel and stick wallpaper, and I cut that down to size and I put it on the back of the flat panel. So the front of the flat panel, the canvas side is painted, the back paper side is the peel and stick wallpaper. So smooth that down, and then it's time to cut the stretched canvas. So I did 4 8 score lines, so like 2 X's. You can do 6, you can do 8, whatever you want. And then you want to roll back each little triangle there. This is a little tricky because you're dealing with the peel and stick wallpaper on it. So give yourself some grace and really focus on pre-rolling each little section and making sure that you kind of train the peel and stick wallpaper to roll back before you hot glue it in place. Otherwise, the hot glue is going to come undone. So just be very patient and really hold each little corner of that triangle in place while the hot glue dries. So I would definitely hold it in place for a good like 30 seconds. Like I speeded this video up considerably, but I hope you get the point. But just a little dab of hot glue in the corner of each little triangle and then hold them in place until the glue dries. And then you can kind of play around. So this is why I like to hot glue the little triangles first, because then I can kind of see what kind of space I'm working with to fill my canvas. So for this, I just added a flower wall decal. So next to the peel and stick wallpaper, a lot of times they have wall decal stickers. I've used this pattern before on other projects. I love it. And then I just cut some words out on my Cricut in some dark green vinyl. Totally optional. You can add embellishments, you can add stickers, you could add a printable, whatever you like. And then I wanted to embellish the front of the busted canvas just a little bit. You could use twine. It's kind of like a floral wire wrapped in brown craft paper. It's just easier. I wrapped, 8 loops around my fingers and then twisted it into a figure 8 shape, and that made a little bow. And then I just hot glued that right in place to the front of my busted canvas project there. And then the final step is to assemble the 2 canvases together. So you just want to add hot glue to the back of the stretched canvas and center that right onto the flat canvas panel, and you're in business. So here's my little peel and stick wallpaper busted canvas craft. Dollar Tree has these little hanging wooden shelves. They're just plain wood. And then they also sell this wallpaper. So I grabbed some in this wooden chevron pattern. And it is like peel and stick wallpaper, but I don't totally trust the adhesive on it. So I just applied a little bit of a glue stick to like the surface of one of the little wooden shelves. And then I cut a sheet of that wood pattern wallpaper in half. You use half a sheet per side. And then you peel off the backing and then center and smooth down that wallpaper. I just smoothed it down with my fingers. You could also use like a smoothing tool if you have like a Cricut tool to get all those air bubbles out. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I just used my cutting mat and my pen blade, and I trimmed off any excess wallpaper. And so trim right up against the edge of that little wooden shelf. And then from there, it's time to remake the little holes in the wooden shelf so that you can still hang it up. So just take like a fine point pen blade and poke it through the existing holes and then kind of like stick it in and twist it. If you come at it from like the wallpaper side, then you can take like the end of a paintbrush or something and stick it in so that the wallpaper goes in through that hole. So there we go. And then repeat the same process on the other side with glue sticks. And then on the smaller shelf, I did like 1/4 of a piece of wallpaper on each side. So the small shelves come in a pack of 2, but I only used 1 of them. So I'll just kind of speed this up and show you the sped up process here. And then when I strung these up, I found it easiest to wrap the ends of the string with a little bit of masking tape, or you could use like Scotch tape or whatever. It just makes it easier so it's not like fraying as you try to run it through the little hole in the shelf. And then from there you can take the tape off and then tie a knot at like whatever length you want to hang your shelf at. And then Dollar Tree with their wall decor has these little letter boards. So I bought one and I just put the little phrase, "And I choose joy," which is from one of my favorite songs by For King and Country. And here's my little shelves in my office. I just displayed the little letter board and a couple of mini faux succulents. I really like the added wood texture from the wallpaper instead of just like a plain wooden shelf. Now, if you're going to make any sort of peel and stick wallpaper crafts, you're probably going to have scraps left over. And so here's one way to use them. So I just cut a piece of a manila folder, or any thin cardstock would do, and then add a strip of peel and stick wallpaper to the front and the back. So if you can guess by the shape of this, we're making bookmarks. So you want, a long skinny rectangle. And so once you have the front and the back covered, grab your paper trimmer, make sure you have a sharp blade and use plenty of pressure so you can cut through all 3 layers at once, and then trim it down to size. So trim off all the excess manila folder edges until you have a rough bookmark shape. None of my bookmarks were the exact same size, and that's totally fine. And then I used my little punch, my craft punch, to round the corners. Someone commented on a video a while ago, if you don't have a craft punch, use like a quarter and trace the edge up against the corner of your bookmark, and then you can cut, and that makes a rounded corner as well. So I did this with 5 different patterns of peel and stick wallpaper. On a couple of them, I decided to add little rub-on decals from Dollar Tree. They're just different little words. So I just cut them out and then used a smoothing tool to smooth that word right down onto the bookmark. I will say I had to do a few more swipes with my squeegee tool there than I normally would have versus, doing a rub-on transfer onto, say, a wood surface. But it did stick quite well. It just took a little longer than other projects that I've seen or that I've experienced. And then from there, I just grabbed my little hole punch and I punched a hole in the top of each of my little bookmarks. It took a punch or two to go through all 3 layers of, the wallpaper and the manila folder. And then just grab a ribbon that complements the color of your peel and stick wallpaper, run it through, and then do that on all of your bookmarks, and you're in business. So here are my 5 different little bookmarks that I made out of peel and stick wallpaper scraps from other projects. And here are all 10 of my peel and stick wallpaper projects. I do hope you enjoyed watching these crafts come together. Until next time, happy making. Hey, if you enjoyed watching these crafts, give one of these videos a watch. Thanks so much.